what you do is you fly planes into the stratosphere, about 60,000 feet into the atmosphere, and you just spray aerosols, and it blocks out, it dims the sun. Enough of the sun to perhaps reduce temperatures by around a degree Fahrenheit. Of course, you wouldn't want to do too much of that. It's very simple. It's very inexpensive. It may only cost a few $1 billion a year. And the reason why we know it works is because about 30 years ago, Mount Pinatubo, and anytime we have a really big volcanic eruption, it shoots all those aerosols into the stratosphere that dims the sun, and we measure a temperature that usually goes down from Pinatubo is about a 1 degree temperature drop over the course of 1 to 2 years or so. So we know it's effective. But because it's so inexpensive, it really freaks a lot of scientists out. Because it can be done unilaterally. It could be done by a small nation. It could be done by a really, really rich person. And we don't know what the side effects are. There hasn't been much research at all yet into this, and certainly there needs to be a lot more of it. But a lot of scientists and a lot of people in the climate community don't even want to go that route because they're afraid if we do this or the carbon capture that it may delay our transition over from fossil fuels. It may kind of kick the can down the road and allow us to use fossil fuels for a longer period of time when the other solutions like renewable energy, solar, wind, nuclear, hydro, all those things are ready and raring to go, and they're moving very quickly. So most folks in the climate community don't love it because it could be a distraction. Oh, and by the way, when it comes to solar geoengineering, so blocking the sun out, if you ever stopped, let's say you did it for 30 years, and then you stopped, all of a sudden, almost instantaneously, all that warming that you would see over that time, that would occur almost instantaneously, and that could be catastrophic. So there are a lot of concerns with this. This is kind of a don't do it until you break glass in case of emergency kind of situation.
That's so interesting, Jeff, because, when you're first describing it, it sounds like, oh, well, there's the answer, right? Like, too much solar radiation, right? Let's just fix it by repairing almost the holes in our ozone layer. What you're saying, though, is that if we were ever to stop, that immediately all the cumulative effect, am I understanding you correctly? The cumulative effect of what we've blocked would immediately come and radiate down on the Earth?
It's true if we hadn't already taken out the carbon dioxide. So remember, this doesn't take out the carbon dioxide right here. So the carbon dioxide is just building up that whole time. That's why people are afraid to employ this, because if you do this, maybe you don't do as much of the carbon capture, or maybe you just keep burning fossil fuels. 30 years later, you have a lot more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and then all of a sudden, you've been artificially reducing temperatures. All of a sudden, bang, those temperatures go way up. And now you're dealing with a real catastrophe because everything has to adapt that much faster. So it's precarious. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I always say that, but it's important to remember. It's a real interesting concept. You're going to be hearing a lot more about it in the future. Hopefully this is something we don't ever have to do, but in case of an emergency, we could actually reduce atmospheric temperatures by a degree and perhaps even more if we really needed to.
I can see why it's so controversial, but I can also see why it's potentially so exciting. Jeff, thank you.
You're welcome.